Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So, how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 242. And today I have a very special guest. Today I have Selena Soo. She is a 7-figure business mentor who helps experts and authors reach millions with their message. She is the author of the new book, Rich Relationships: Build a $1 Million Network for Your Business. And I was in her mastermind many years ago, so I consider her a mentor as well. Selena, welcome to Hustle and Flow.
Heather, thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited for your book that is coming out. So we will talk about that. But I wanted to back up a little bit and talk about, although I think it's totally connected, I wanted to talk about how I first learned of you, which you
Okay,
may or may not know this story.
I don't think I do.
So it was probably, oh my goodness, I'm trying to go back, maybe like 2016 or 2017.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
And I knew of Jen Kim. We were connected, and she was actually at one of your influencer dinners that you used to host in New York. And I then got to know Jen, and she said wonderful things about you, which is how I then ended up working with you as well in your mastermind. But I was just curious, what gave you the idea to do these influencer dinners? If you'll just share with the audience kind of what they were and what you were doing, because I feel like it exemplifies the rich relationships concept. Like, you're not just writing a book for the first time about something new. You've literally been in action doing this for as long as I have known you.
Yes, it's such a good question. So I actually realized that what really inspired me to host these dinners is my father. So I grew up in Hong Kong. My dad was at one point the vice chairman of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and he had his own company too. And so he was always bringing people together for dinners, and it was his way of showing love and care. And for anyone that's familiar with Chinese culture, has been around Chinese people, they will know that when it comes to going out for dinner with people, that people will fight over the bill, and they'll be like, no, 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 you can't pay. This is on me. No. And they'll like literally like grab it and like run away with the bill. It's, such a way to show love and care. And so I just get really excited about people who are doing amazing things in the world, people that I think the world needs to know about. And so it was really fun for me to bring them together and then also bring them with the media, because at the time the media was really the rich relationship that I was focusing on in terms of being that platform to help the people that I admire get their message out to more people. So yeah, I kind of created my own version of those dinners as I became an adult.
How did you get into the media world?
How did I get into the media world? So the way it really began is when I was in my late 20s. I had a quarter life crisis and just found myself clinically depressed and just feeling just out of it. I didn't have like a lot of drive to keep going. My mom came all the way from Vancouver, Canada to New York to be by my side, to make sure I was getting on the subway, going to work, putting on clothes, putting food in my body. And I remember saying to a friend one day, I can't live like this. I have to find a way to feel better. And
Mm.
that's when I discovered this life coach. And through this life coach, I got introduced to this world of experts and authors, started reading all these books. And I realized that when people are struggling and suffering, they're not just looking for more information, they are looking for inspiration. And so to me, there's nothing more inspiring than a person that embodies a message of hope and possibility and can show you that things can get better, right? Whether it's you can heal your health, you can leave this toxic relationship, you can start a business, you can pursue your passion. And so I started learning about these incredible experts and authors, and I'd ask my friends, do you know who they are? And most of the time they had no idea who I was talking about. So it just really dawned on me that sometimes the people doing the most important work are that best kept secret. And so I wanted to be that person that connected them, that elevated them, that got them access to more people. And so the media was a way in which I did that. So I just became really passionate about building media relationships. And even though I identify as a super introvert, I also identify as a go-getter. And so I took the initiative to reach out to people in the media to say, I'm hosting these events. I'm assembling this really incredible group of experts. I would love for you to come and meet them. And over time, with every email that I sent out, in many cases, I didn't know who I was emailing. I just put myself out there, but I built that media network.
I feel like whether you are an entrepreneur or a professional, this is such an important thing to do because, I didn't grow up with connections. And so people
Yeah.
often ask, like, how did you get connected? I led the connections. And I
Yes.
know you do too, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like just because you don't know someone doesn't mean that you can't get to know them
Yeah.
if you are creative and strategic. And I also think it's a great example because a lot of the listeners
Yeah.
are midlife or getting close to midlife and have these dreams of doing something different. So it's not a quarter life crisis. Maybe it's more of a midlife crisis.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
truly, if you focus on relationships, I do think that you can pivot and start new careers, and it's not as hard as we make it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I really believe that rich relationships are like rocket ships, and they're the fastest way to get from where we are to where we want to be. Every problem we have in life can be solved through a rich relationship, right? And so there's different kinds of rich relationships. People that are there to be by your side during your worst day of your life, who see all sides of you, your highs and your lows, the polished version of you, the super messy version of you, right? We need those confidants. And
Mhm.
there are also people that maybe are peers who can offer you another perspective, or they're on a similar path. And it's like, hey, have you thought about trying this? Or, hey, I'd love to introduce you to another colleague who works at this, other organization. And then there's mentors who have achieved the thing that we're looking to do and can show us the shortcuts. So, and then there's also super connectors. It's another kind of rich relationship I talk about. The people that just really, they know everybody. And it's just so easy for them to put you in touch with all the right people. And so, yeah, I mean, of course, I'm all about helping people create those rich relationships because I think it's the easiest way to improve our quality of life.
So I think a lot of people listening are probably, maybe, I was going to say probably, maybe really good at helping others and enjoy that and love to connect and love to give, but they are afraid to ask for help. So they never want to lean on that rich relationship because they're worried that it will be burdening them. What do you have to say about that?
I love this question, Heather, so much because I think it's so common. I think it's obvious sometimes for people to be like, oh, I love this person. I care about them. I want to support them. And so we offer our help. And then when it comes to our most important needs, we feel afraid because we say things to ourselves like, well, I don't want the person to feel like I'm using them. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. It would just feel so terrible to get a no. Maybe I can just figure this out myself, right? And so there's a lot of things to do that you can do to get support from your network. I would say the first thing, number one, is really getting clear on what your goals are. Because sometimes if you go up to someone and you're just like, how can I help you? They'd be like, I don't even know. Like, you know, and so sometimes we're just so busy going through life that we haven't really clarified what are our top one, two, or three goals. And if you can't articulate what you need and what's a goal for you, then it's going to be really hard for other people to rally behind you. And so I'd say that'd be step one. And there's different kinds of goals, or be goals connected to money, whether that's how much money you want to make or save or invest or whatever it is, right? So we have money goals. Other goals we might have are visibility goals, wanting to get ourselves out there, establish our personal brand, get our message out there. There might be impact goals in terms of the number of lives you want to transform, or maybe there's a platform like a newsletter list or a social media platform that you want to grow so that you can reach more people. There's also quality of life goals, right? It's not just about what we do, it's also just day to day, like how do we feel? And is this life really authentic to us? So really getting clear on what are your top three goals, and then thinking about, based on these top three goals, who are the people that can help me reach those goals? Typically, they're going to be people that have achieved those goals, can offer advice, can make introductions, and so forth. And there's a couple of tips I have in terms of requesting support. So typically when you're requesting support for someone, you want to have first already shown up as a giver in their life, as someone who is helpful, as someone who is supportive, just because the reality is that people are so overextended. So to drop what they're doing and to prioritize supporting someone, if there is an established relationship based on generosity already, then that's going to be so much easier. And then the other thing is, I think it's really powerful when you're making an ask to be expressing gratitude and acknowledging the relationship, whether it's like, thank you for being such a supportive friend in my life. Thank you for being such an inspiring mentor. Thank you for just being the most amazing colleague that, I can always lean on. I really appreciate. What that does is it shows, like it establishes, well, one, that they've already been a giver in your life. So you're reinforcing the identity, but also showing that like I notice and I appreciate how you've shown up for me. And then the next step would be I like to make asks in a way that's lighthearted. I never want to make them in a way that is demanding and makes people uncomfortable. So there's different phrases you can use. It could be something like, hey, I wanted to run this idea by you. Or I just had this thought and I wanted to see what you thought of it. So using lighthearted language where people don't feel pressured, and then you kind of share, what it is that you need support with. Um, for example, might be, I'm going through a rebrand, I'm updating my website, and I'm in the process of collecting testimonials from people that are familiar with my work. Would you be willing to write a 1 to 2 sentence testimonial that would help me so much? And if it would make things easier for you, I'm happy to give you some sample copy that you can tweak or some sentence prompts to get you started. And so what you're doing is you're not demanding or accepting, you're asking like, hey, I was wondering if you might be able to, right? And then you're clear and specific. It's not a broad, open-ended thing that is overwhelming. It's like, hey, would you be willing to write 1 or 2 sentences? And then it's, let me make it really easy for you. So if it's helpful, I could do X, Y, and Z to just make it easy to get those 1 or 2 sentences. And so you can really apply that basic formula to any kind of ask you're making. Another thing that I think is really important is to really customize your ask to the person. So I'll just give my own example because I'm going through a book launch right now. And it's one of those times where, you have to make a lot of asks of people.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful not to make so many asks to the same person at one time because it can feel overwhelming to them. And certain people are going to be more appropriate for different things. So for some people, it might be like, hey, I would so love to have a conversation on your podcast. And that might be the perfect ask for them. It's like they're already doing the podcast, they're looking for a new guest, love sharing about new big ideas and books, right? So that's easy. There's someone that I recently reached out to, my friend Dory Clark, and she read the book and she offered a testimonial, which was amazing. And I knew that she was connected to someone that I really admire, Adam Grant, who is a psychologist at Wharton, and his book Give and Take really inspired my book Rich Relationships. And I know that Adam is someone that's in really high demand. He cannot respond to every email. There's a million of people that are trying to get in front of him, and I could email him cold. And I knew him. We know of each other, but it's really
Yeah.
very much acquaintances from many years ago. And so I said to Dory, and I sent her a voice note. I was like, hey, Dory. So as you know, things are in full swing for the book launch. And thank you again for, offering me an endorsement for the book. It really means the world to me. And I have something I want to run by you. So someone that deeply inspired the book is Adam Grant. His book, Give and Take, really inspired one of my key frameworks in the book and really the entire book. And I want to get it in front of him. I know that he's an exceptionally busy person. And I was wondering if you might be willing to share the book with him to let him know that you're someone that has read it and has endorsed the book and that you think that he may enjoy checking it out. Is that something that you might be open to doing? And I can, put together swipe like sample copy or anything to just make it a super low lift for you. So let me know your thoughts either way. And so Dory got back to me. She's like, yes, Selena, I would love to support you. And yeah, if you can just write up something like what you said, then I can forward that to Adam and I can see, if he is interested. And so I wrote the note up, and instead of giving him the entire book, I gave him 35 pages to read. So it's just shorter. And so it was like, a message that Dory was able to forward on. And then he said yes. And so he has the book right now. And so just so grateful for Dory's support. But there's like, because I could have said to Dory, which I have said to some friends, like, hey, I am looking to get on the, USA Today bestsellers list. That means I have to sell 4,000 books. I have to raise $100,000 basically. And so I'm reaching out to my closest friends to see if they would buy 10 copies or 20 copies, right? That would be $250 or $500, right? And so my friends were like, yes, count me in, I'm buying. And I also have bigger packages. So some people are doing like the special bulk buys with the bonuses and the bells and whistles, but I am, reaching out to specific people. So with Dory, it wouldn't make sense for me to make like 5 requests to her. That would be overwhelming. And I also understand there's certain requests that, like any friend, that is in a place where they can invest some money into my book, can buy books. But that would not be the best request of Dory. The best request would be to do something that only she can do. So I just share that with people. Sometimes people make asks of people and they get upset. I mean, it's actually interesting. I asked one of my friends in Puerto Rico, and it's, and everyone's got their own stuff around money. If I said the same thing as I do to all my friends, like, hey, I would love for you to support me with this book, and I can't achieve this goal alone. And so I'm just leaning on my nearest and dearest to see if they would buy, multiple copies, 20 copies, 10 copies, whatever feels good. And it was interesting because this person, she bought 1 copy of the book and never responded to my message. And I know that she brings in millions of dollars of profit into her business every year. But the interesting thing is when we had talked about my book before, she was like, oh, I'd love to organize an event for you. And obviously that takes time and energy and creativity. And so even though there's a part of me that was like, this is so weird. I thought she was one of my closest friends and she's kind of run away from me, but she did buy a copy of the book. But I'm like, everyone's different and they've got their own stuff going on. And who knows why she did that. And she's not a part of the expert world. I think for us who are, entrepreneurs in the expert space, we know how important it is to like show up and support people and things like that. So maybe it was something that she just was not used to. But, I think that sometimes when we're so fixated, like there's only one way that people can support me. And if they say no, then it's like, I'm upset. Then we really limit the riches in our lives, and different people will just support you in different ways.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important to remember that to not take things personally, right? Because we never know. We never ever know. Sometimes they'll tell us, sometimes we can be in a conversation with
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
But I do know for those of us who feel like, I don't know, it's like bit we just feel like we don't want to bother people. And so when we make the ask and they don't say yes or they ignore us or don't do the thing, it's so easy to make up so many stories. And um, I would encourage people listening, like, don't ever let that stop you from making the ask because you never have, like, you have no idea what they're thinking or like what's going on. And you just have to keep showing up. I mean, humans are messy, right? Relationships are messy.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. And as they say with sales, that you have to ask a lot of times to get a sale. You might need to get like 100 no's in order to get those 10 yeses, but those 10
Yes.
yeses could result in big things for you.
Yes. So you have a really interesting concept in the books called a generosity fund. I
Yeah.
would love if you would share that because I really think that people like that's something that they can start implementing tomorrow. And it's like such a good tool.
Yes, yes, I love it. So first of all, I want to define a term that I have in the book, and it's called breathtaking generosity. So breathtaking generosity is doing something for someone that is so kind, so thoughtful that it literally takes their breath away. Like for a moment, they're like, I don't even know what to say. I can't believe that this person showed up for me like that. And so there's a couple things when you're thinking about your generosity fund. You you want to show up for people in the times where it matters most. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I've been so good at relationship building. I'm not someone that identifies as a social butterfly that is running around to every event around the country. I would consider myself to be a super introvert and someone that has less energy than the average person. But when I do show up for people, I show up in the right moments in which it really counts. And so if you're thinking, well, Selena, I don't know when are the right moments to show up. Well, let me break it down for you. So, first is really getting clear on someone's goals and dreams and aligning yourself with them. So, you might be thinking, well, I don't know what someone's goals or dreams are. And I would challenge you and say you actually do. If it is, an entrepreneur, they are looking for more clients for their business, they're looking for more visibility, they're looking to save time, they're looking to hire people who can make their lives easier, they're looking to get connected. And if someone is a working professional, I mean, maybe they are thinking about, how do I balance motherhood and work life, right? But we all fundamentally have the same needs around wanting to have more resources, wanting to save time, wanting to have peace of mind, wanting to have good health. So, and a lot of times people will say what they need. You see your friends fundraising for a cause that's meaningful, or they're putting out on social media that they have this big goal or dream. So, and if someone is close to us, we can ask them. So there's that. The second thing is being what Joe Polish calls a pain detective, being really attuned to the pain all around you. And so you might be like, well, I don't know when people are in pain. They're not telling me. And I would say that I have a feeling that you probably know. And I imagine that for many of us, for those of us in the United States, as an example, we probably know people who have been affected directly or indirectly by the LA wildfires. We probably know people whose homes have been impacted by the hurricanes in Florida and North Carolina and beyond. We probably know people who are going through divorce, and maybe they have to give up 50% of their company or net worth and figure out what to do with their kids. Or maybe we know someone whose kids are going through a hard time at school, or they're dealing with an eating disorder, right? Maybe we know someone whose business is not doing well, and they all of a sudden have like this massive loss in revenue and have to change their lifestyle. So I would say all around us, people are signaling to us, one way or another, that they are in pain, or that they have this big goal and dream, and there's an opportunity for us to show up and support them. And I always like to say, be the first to support, not the last to support. Be
Mm,
that person that relieves them from their pain. And so when you have a generosity fund, you have money earmarked to support the people that you care about, your rich relationships. And so it could be a flat amount, like maybe every year I have, I'm just making up a number, $2,000 earmarked for my rich relationships. Or maybe if you're a business owner, it's 1% of my revenue. If you're a seven-figure business owner, maybe 1%, that's like, $10,000. And so when you see someone in your network need something, it's already automatic. You have that money set aside for the year and you're looking to spend it. When I think about investments that we can make, for example, I'll share this fun story, but there is I was going through a time where there was volatility in my own life. I had a real estate investment that tanked. There were all these properties that popped up around it. And so I wasn't able to get the rental income I was expecting. And I was losing $6,000 a month. And then there were changes in the marketplace, and I had to shift things in my business model. And so I hired a money coach who was amazing. And she was really helping me get financially organized and in control. And I would tell my friends, like, hey, you've got to work with Jenna Rose. Like, she's so good. And I was literally having like 9 conversations with my best friend, and she just wasn't doing it. And so, and I was having the same conversations with other people. And so I said to Jenna Rose, I was like, I think I just need to like buy bulk sessions from you and just give them away to people. And these are all like your ideal clients. I can see many of them working with you for years to come. And so if I were to just buy, I don't know, like 100 plus sessions and just like, what would you charge me? And she said to me that she would be willing to create like a bundle of 4 sessions for $200, which is such a low amount, like 200 total. But when you think about it, it's actually very smart, because for some people, for many people, you might need to have 1 or 2 conversations, or even 3 conversations, before somebody becomes an ongoing client. And so why not just make it so easy for me to just mass purchase, and let me
mhm.
just find all of her ideal clients. And around that time, I had spent like $7,000 in Facebook ads, which isn't a lot of money compared to what I spent in the past, but I didn't get a single client from it. And I felt like I was pouring $7,000 down the drain. So I was like, well, what if I spent $7,000 on rich relationships, and specifically connecting people to Jenna Rose? And so I was like, I have a quota. I'm going to help 35 people with their money because all of us need it, no matter what our situation is. And so I would reach out to people and I would lead from a place of, vulnerability, not like, oh, I think that you're in trouble. Can I get you money coaching? But rather like, I hired this person. She's so great. I think that all my friends should be working with her. And if you're interested, I'd love to gift it to you. Right. And so one person said to me, wow, working with Jenna Rose has been so powerful. In 2 sessions, we've already identified how I can save $1,500 a month. So think about it, right? $1,500 a month times 12, right? We're already doing the math. That's 18,000 one year. That's, gosh, 18,000. That's 36,000 over 2 years. So my $200 help that person, save all that money, right? And so it's a win for her because she's saving all that money. It's a win for Jenna Rose because that person is definitely going to want to continue working, or at the very least give a testimonial or refer business. And for me, it's a win because I'm strengthening a relationship with someone that I really care about. And so I could put that $200 in a stock market, and at a 7% return, I could make $14. Well, $14, yeah, that's something. And I do believe people should put money in the stock market, but it's not going to change their life, right? But I could set a certain amount of money aside and be like, I'm going to pour it into people. And, when you pour money into people, and maybe it's not, giving them money coaching, maybe it's taking them out to dinner and just being a really good listener and pouring into, their business and their life, or, it could be any number of things that you can make so much impact if you carve out that, that sum of money. And so I just really encourage people to do it because I think that, you can put your money in the stock market, you can put it in crypto, you can put it in real estate, and sure, you can do that, but also have some money set aside to invest in people so they know that you're the kind of person that actually really shows up for them in those moments of need.
So, for those who are thinking, I really want a better network, but this feels very transactional. I think it's not transactional. I feel like if you're being strategic, you're being thoughtful, not
Yes.
transactional. But I'm sure you get this question. So I'm curious what your take is when people say that just feels transactional.
Oh yeah, no, I love that question. And I think that there's a big difference. So I have this framework on the three different types of givers. I'll go through that. So when it comes to giving and supporting people, there's different ways that you can do it. So the first is the indiscriminate giver. And this is the person that gives from a place of, I am not enough. I need to prove myself. I need to show that I'm worthy. So if you ask for something, I have to say yes. And they tend to run themselves ragged, and they tend to also oftentimes initiate like, oh, let me help you. And then later deep down, they feel angry and resentful because they overextended themselves, right? So there's that. Then there is a transactional giver, and that's the person that gives from a place of, okay, if I do this, then you're going to do that. The difference between transactional giving and the other kind of rich giving that I'll talk about later is with the transaction, they're there for the transaction. So once the person's power is gone, the influence is gone, the opportunity is gone, the money is gone, they're also gone. If you have a real
Hmm.
relationship with someone, they're going to be with you whether or not things change in your personal circumstances, right? And so then there's rich giving, and that's what the book Rich Relationships is about. And so rich giving is about, you could call it strategic, you could also call it being purposeful and intentional, and understanding that you're just one person. So you literally cannot give to every person on the planet. Otherwise, you would run yourself ragged, right? And so you notice that there are certain people where there is that energy of abundance and flow and synergy and win-win energy. There's certain people that you're drawn to that you really care about, that your values align, and you also feel like they care about you too, and they show up for you. And so you are thoughtful about really investing in those relationships in a really generous way. And it's not about investing in them so that you get something from them. It's rather thinking, I'm investing in my network. And when I show up as someone who is kind and generous and I share my gifts with others, that I will receive abundance back from my network. It might come a year later, it might come from a different person. It doesn't matter. But I know that when I give and it feels so good to give, I know that I also receive support around me. So that's a distinction. Do you any thoughts or reflections? Because I do think it's a nuanced thing, and I'm glad that you asked that question so we can really share how that's different than being a transactional giver.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, building community is not selfish. It's
Yeah,
only selfish and it's only transactional if you don't actually care about the person. You
yeah.
just care about what you can get out of them. And so for me, it's like, well, just look at your own motives. And I know that the people listening would care about the people, but you can also support each other. We see this in, I feel like, in corporate all the time. It's what we call the good old boy network. And maybe because we've been burned by that, maybe because we've been excluded from that, like we don't want to think that way. But there's nothing wrong with it if you are coming at it from the right perspective and you have the right motivation. And I think women, especially, we have so much opportunity to support each other and hold each other up in a way that we don't always do, because we're not thinking about it from like, how can I help this person with their business? How can I help someone with their career? And we really should be doing more of that because I know we all care about lifting each other up. And that's what's required to do that. It takes a community.
Absolutely. And I would say that it's okay to, and maybe this is the wrong word, but it's okay to have like a vision of the
Yeah.
relationship. I mean, I wouldn't use the word motive, but like a broader vision, like, oh my gosh, like I just see so much synergy. I can see how I can be such a helpful person. And I can see the synergy where this person could pour back into me in terms of ideas or connections. And, you know,
Yes.
I see myself wanting to spend a lot of time with this person. And so it's like we have a vision, like, ooh, this relationship, it feels good, it feels exciting, there's a values alignment, there's so much I want to talk to this person about, right? And so I think it's okay to give and be like, I can see that this relationship could be a supportive and abundant relationship. Not that I'm going to require it or demand it, but I could see that happening naturally, you know? And so really, you know, approaching things from relationships first, business second, right? If you have
Yeah.
a solid relationship and someone knows you and sees you and understands what you need and where you're going, it's just going to happen naturally. You don't have to, you know, force anything.
Yes. And your book is not called Rich Networks. It's called Rich Relationships for a
Yeah,
reason. And your book comes out next week. So May 13 is
it
when
does.
Rich Relationships comes out, but you all can pre-order it now. And speaking of giving, Selena has a gift for you. So Selena, do you want to share what they can get?
Yeah, I'm so excited to share this. So if you go to the website, Rich Relationships, so that's plural, richrelationshipsbook.com/Heather, I'm actually going to give you the first 4 chapters of the book for free. And then I'm also going to give you a bundle of my rich relationship scripts. Because when people go through the book, they're like, this is my favorite part, like how you say things.
Hmm.
You know, whether it is asking someone to support you with your goal, or maybe you have to set a boundary and say no, but do it in a way that preserves the relationship, right? There's many different asks that you can be making of people. And so I have over 20 different scripts for people to build rich relationships. So they can go ahead and get that at richrelationshipsbook.com/Heather. You can get the first 4 chapters, the 20 plus scripts. Also, if they go there before May 30th and put their name in, they're also going to be entered into a raffle to win $1,000. So no reason why not to go there. You could be the lucky one when you take action today.
Yeah, and you could use that on yourself or you could use it for your generosity fund, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
win-win. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, go grab a book and go get your free gift. And the links will be in the show notes. Selena, thank you so much. And we are rooting for you and your USA Today bestseller.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.